Diaries of a Madman. By What Must I Do? Chapter 195. Part 1 of 3. When we got back to the glade, I sighed and finally tried to relax. Running into Miguel was actually unexpected, and despite being relatively easy to kill, his maze grated my nerves. "Would you happen to know how to give a massage?" I asked. "I do," she said. "One of your messages this time was from Spike, who actually gave you a massage while talking. I learned everything I needed to know while he was working." "Hey. Well, can you do that while I'm getting the messages?" "Sure." Her body engulfed me and started feeling me up in most of the right ways. "The first message is from Watcher. Are you prepared?" "Yep." The crotchety old man's voice filled my ears. "I don't like this place, Nav. You shouldn't have done the coma here. I can feel the weight of it all pressing down on me. Although to be fair, it's my opinion that you shouldn't have done the coma at all. I'm sure Doppel told you, but we got together and decided to limit our visits to give you more time to focus. So of course, that means we have to make them count. He says," while beating around the bush, I muttered. "It was recommended that we suggest things for you to change. I have a few. First, your behavior. You're too blunt, you curse too often, and you share far too many inappropriate things. It wasn't as big of a deal before you became a noble, but you need to improve. It's hard to set an example if your behavior is worse than those you lead. I've already decided to work on oversharing. I never really thought about how often I say naughty words, but I guess it is kinda a lot. And being blunt is too fun to give up, so nah. Second, I would recommend more discretion in your lustful affairs. You're walking a tightrope with the Griffin Princess. If you get caught, your options would likely be marrying her or never going back to Griffiths. That's not to mention the vast amount of other partners you quite openly toy with." "Already agreed to work on that," I said with a nod. "And as an addendum to that, I would also recommend picking a single partner and marrying her. Preferably Celestia, Moonbeam, or Princess Gilda. I'm not picky, as long as she has a crown on her head. You're too good for anything less, no offense to Twilight." "That's real funny, old man." "Third, I'd like you to work on your pride. Namely, having some. For the most part, it seems like you hate yourself and don't care about anything you've accomplished. I'm not entirely sure what all the coma is showing you, but I hope it's helping you see how much you've done in how little time. I'll admit there are some things about you that are easy to hate, but there's more good than bad." Did he just say he hated me? That actually made my guide giggle. "Fourth, you need to deal with your vicious attack filly. I'm hesitant to say she traumatized fully trained soldiers, but more than half of them came to me afterward, saying it was the creepiest thing they've ever heard. You need to get Taya under control." "Yeah, I do. And finally, I don't want to project and I don't want to assume, but it appears you're having issues completely adjusting to your new gender. It's one thing I didn't want to talk about with the others. Doppel's talking about how much fun it'll be to dress you up for the pageant, and it takes everything in me not to tell her you'd rather die. Gord says you're having trouble and just need time and more help to adjust, but I'm not sure any amount of time will fix something this broken. To me, it seems obvious that you aren't handling it well." "Well, that's two vassals who noticed," I said. "The main problem is that I'm not really sure how to fix it," he said. "Everywhere I've looked, I've kept my eyes open for any kind of gender-swapping spells to no avail. I just know that what we're doing now doesn't seem to be working. I'd be happy if you came out of the coma and told me I'm wrong, but I'm not holding my breath." "Tell me about it," I sighed. "You definitely have other flaws, but those are the biggest ones I've noticed. I won't take up more of your time. All I ask is that you return to us quickly, my lord." And with that, my new favorite vassal left me alone. "It's sad that my vices are so obvious," I said. "But it's good that you're willing to admit to them, my guide said. And better still that you seem inclined to fix them. I reckon. So I have a message from Spike, too. Yes. Are you ready for it? My body is prepared. Sup, Nav? What's up with that Hera chick? She actually screamed when she saw me. Oh Lord, I sighed. Thankfully, Athena had a squirt bottle ready to calm her down. But I mean, you've mentioned legends about dragons before. Are we really that scary to most humans? Why is he asking me questions? I ask. Because he's friendly and talkative, my guide replied. Why is your body always so tense? It's all weird and fucked up, so keeping it upright is a struggle. Twilight told me not to talk to or about them much, so I guess I should get to it. First off, you've been in here for about 2.5 weeks now. God damn, I said, shaking my head. I think the last I heard was 5 days, from Kot. I'm actually surprised I haven't had more visits. Flo and Aqua have been playing gatekeeper, my guide said. They informed the others that visits are welcome, but to keep talking to a minimum so you'll have more time to concentrate. How long did you spend just listening to Kot and Tyre ramble? And since you've been here so long, I figure your body is probably being neglected. I decided I'd come in and make sure you didn't have bed sores or anything like that. I'll also make sure you're clean and whatnot. Though it definitely looks like your hair has been maintained. I'm pretty sure Hera and Athena volunteered to do that, but I wouldn't be too surprised if they got bored and forgot. You've been well taken care of, my guide said. Spike was just concerned and wanted to double-check. I also figured I'd give you a massage while I'm here. I'm not sure if it'll help you in there, but from the amount you're twitching, I'd say you're fighting something. Definitely no bedsores. And... You don't have any scent at all. That's weird, but probably a sign that you are being taken care of. Good. How do I have no scent? I ask. Here is magic, my guide said. Taya and Kot were both upset about it. And of course, I also wanted to talk. So I guess I'll start with this, thank you. You have done so much for me. You helped fix my diet, finally letting me grow. You protected me in Egypt at your own expense. You helped me find dragons to learn more than I ever thought I could. You showed me that I was nothing to rarity, and when I was broken by it, you gave me a chance to leave Equestria behind and start anew. I finally got to repay some of that debt by saving your life and earning my wings, but then you ruined it in Iceland by getting tortured because you murdered someone for me. I feel like you may have skipped a few. I know you get tired of having praise heaped on you, so I figured I'd get it out of the way all at once. Oh wait, I do have one more. Your pussy is like magic. It just milked me dry. So I hope you don't mind if we do that more later. Gilda wants to watch. Can't say I'm surprised, I said, shaking my head. So, Doppel suggested I talk about ways I think you can improve. Well, I hesitate to say you're perfect, but I usually leave your side feeling happier and better than when I join you. In fact, it's fair to say a good chunk of who I am is because of you. This is the part where you'd make a sarcastic remark about how that's either sad or not a good thing, and then I'd start to hug you before remembering that I promised not to anymore. Which is what I think you can improve. Not the hug thing, the self-deprecation thing. I feel like I could probably improve the hug thing, too. Like, sometimes what you say is funny, but usually it's sad. And you say it so often that... well, some of us are starting to wonder how much you really believe it. So, let's start busting some of your bullshit, shall we? We can begin with the example before, about how you'd say me learning how to act from you is bad. You taught me how to be a predator, Nav. I would have spent eternity floundering for meaning in Equestria, assuming Celestia didn't force me into something horrific. But now, you're showing me how to pick my own path. It's obvious that a lot of your behaviors are bad, and those aren't the ones I try to emulate. But you've changed a lot in your time here. And the traits I like to think I've learned from you are things like humility, patience, and more recently, honesty. I struggled with that one for a while. I kinda turned the dial so far it broke, though. I'm also picking up Celestia's bad habit of talking around the truth. You also helped teach me to fight. You helped me learn about chicks. I'm not sure you're right about Gilda, but I don't expect things with her to last. Still though, it's pretty fun. I learned from you that sometimes, that's worth its weight in gold. I don't go overboard with it like you, though. Your vagina's getting closer to a clown cart these days, isn't it? Says the guy who just called it magic and begged for more. And you definitely taught me a lesson I'll never forget about rarity. In fact, I'd say most of my important life lessons came from you. So there's no reason for you to think me learning from you is bad. After all, I have more sense than you, so I can apply the lessons I learn from you much better. I'm not gonna do dumb things like forming a herd with the most powerful chicks on the planet while denying the whole time it's happening or calling my daughter a pet and rubbing her tummy all the time. I'm feeling a little attacked right now. Another thing you like saying is how it's sad that you're the best friend I have. And while I will admit it's true, it isn't for the reasons you always imply. It's sad you're the best friend I have because I was surrounded by wonderful mares who were great friends to each other. I was always included and welcome, and yet, well, it's hard for a predator to fit in with prey, I guess. But then you showed up. Suddenly I had someone who needed me more than anyone ever had. And not only did you need me, but you were, truly and honestly grateful. I guess that's more than what you were used to, hey. And then Egypt happened and I learned everything I needed to know about who my true friend was. I won't keep listing everything because you call most of them mental scabs, but we both know what you've done for me. And we both know it's a lot more than any of the ponies. And even though you've been through so many hardships, you're still happy to help me. You may complain and guilt trip me every now and then, but you help nonetheless. There's nothing sad about that. Plus, most importantly, you still haven't told anybody about that one time with Fizzle. Yet. You've really shown me the magic of friendship, Spike said, somehow managing to not sound sarcastic at all. Which is the part where you'd call it gay. And then I'd say that it can't be gay because you don't have a dick anymore. It's a cute, puffy little vagina now. And then I'd wish you'd threaten me like you used to. Back before. Well, before you gave up entirely. Ever since South America, you've withdrawn more and more into yourself. You've done so much for me, and yet, you won't even let me do you the kindness of listening. You've been there for every hardship I've ever faced, and you can't even talk to me about your problems. Bitch, I can't talk to anybody about my problems. Not even Flo and Aqua, who know me better than I know myself. That's why I had to go into a coma where nobody else could possibly interfere. If you take anything from this coma, Nav, remember that your friends want to be there for you, too. You don't talk about your old life much. You know, before. Equestria. But almost everything you've said sounds unpleasant. And from what I know about you, well, I'm not surprised you have problems trusting people. But I owe you so much. I would be honored to start paying it back. Every time I try, the things I tell people get spread around. What's the point in trying to trust someone if every time you do, it ends up with another knife in your heart? That was before you earned their undying loyalty, my guide said. Now, they are tied to you so strongly that your secrets are as good as their own. You don't have to withdraw in on yourself anymore. I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to steer the conversation away from you for a bit, Spike said. Though I guess it doesn't matter if you do mind, since you're kinda stuck. I finally met the new Celestia. She told me things. Plans the old her had. Plans, for me. The new Celestia doesn't approve of the old. And yet the old Celestia was your mother, I said. And the new Celestia wants me back in the palace, under her wing. I agreed. Color me surprised. I wanted to talk to you first, but I didn't want to wait a month. I am still very much at your side, Nav. But she needs me. She's working on taking everything over seamlessly, but the workload was too much to handle before she stopped being evil. Now that she can't just kill ponies anymore, the work is piling up. She has gold. She needs to hire people to fill the positions that are lacking. If she is overworked, she has literally nobody but herself to blame. I have to say, though, now that she's tamed? Nav, you need to wake up. She hired a new chef who can work wonders with meat. Breakfast hasn't been the same since. Now why would Celestia go and do a thing like that? I ask no one in particular. Go out and get herself a new, meat-friendly chef? That's a weird thing for a prey species to do, isn't it? Perhaps to cater to her predator son, my guide asked. Or perhaps to cater to the one she believes is betrothed to her. We've come a long way, Nav. Over a painful, winding, dangerous road. And I've watched you grow and change the whole way. You started as a rough, kinda oblong-looking stone. And over time, and with work and effort, you have become the most polished jewel in all of Equestria. Now that you've finally settled in Canterlot, I'm positive all the nobles with unmarried sons will be all over you. And I'm positive I'll be there to tell every single one of them that they're not good enough for you. Taya and I worked out all the details. I have to approve of whoever you marry and I'll be giving you away at the ceremony. She gets to be your best filly. It seems everyone has spent more time thinking about who I'm marrying than I have. So all that's left is you finding just the right person for you. And as someone who has lived with both you and Twilight, and as someone who likes both you and Twilight, I feel safe to say, it's not Twilight. Just don't tell her I said that. But you deserve a crown on your head, Nav. And it's much nicer to put one there with a ring than with a sword, isn't it? Why would I deserve a crown? Get out of your coma quickly, Nav. I miss you. And with that, my scalliest companion left. Taya will be joining you soon, my guide said. In just a few more days. She will. I was hoping I'd be done by then, but I guess she'll be forced to witness some of it. It will do her good to see what mommy had weathered for her filly. Are you prepared for the last of your messages? I thought you said I only had one. That changed. Are you prepared for the last of your messages? Yep. Hello, Navarone, Flo said. Well, I wasn't expecting that. How the hell did she even get in here? I didn't, and it isn't actually a message. It's a conversation, but you're mostly going to be listening. And since I'm talking anyway, she appeared in front of me, reached down, and snatched me out of my guide's watery embrace so she could put me into her own. There, much better. Well, I guess this isn't technically interfering. So, are you here to yell at me? No. First, I am here to defend myself against your guide's accusations. I did not create Celestia as the perfect wife for you. However, her original personality was already fairly close to something you could fall in love with. Once I got rid of the evil and cleaned up a few of her other nasty little traits, it's only obvious you would find it easier to grow close to her. And while you may consider this a new Celestia, she considers herself the same. She expected to pick her relationships back up with no interruptions. That is why she offered sex and that is why she offered marriage. So why would my guide think otherwise? Because you still do not trust me. You rely on me. You love me. But you do not trust me. How could I not trust you? You know pretty much everything about me. You don't trust anyone. That's why you don't tell anyone your secrets. And that's why you never discuss them with me. I could have helped you through every single one of your problems, had you only let me. Instead, you chose this conceited method of torturing yourself. I'm learning valuable information. Valuable information that may or may not be true. There's no telling how accurate these visions really are. And most of it is old news anyway. Context is vital for how I treat my crew moving forward. There may have been better ways to work through my problems, but I don't see what's wrong with this one. I know you don't, Nav, Flo sighed. The rest of your friends get to give you suggestions. I'm going to as well. The first is to talk to me. Please, Nav. I'll beg if I have to. Just stop letting yourself suffer in silence. It kills me to watch. K. If you don't give me a better, more heartfelt answer, I'm going to tickle you. I've never been one for talking about my problems. My family made me think sharing your problems was a sign of weakness, that you always needed to be able to sort your own things out. Trying to get over that hump has been one of the biggest problems I've had in my time here. I've tried at times, but it doesn't usually work out. But if I can't trust you, you have no business being in my head. And if that's what you think it'll take for me to trust you, then I guess that's what I'll have to do. Was that so hard? She sweetly asked. Don't stoop to Aqua's level. That actually made her turn a few shades bluer. Speaking of her, is she going to have a conversation with me, too? I don't know, Flo replied. But my next request does involve her. I request that you kill her personality and be done with it. Keeping her chained to you as she is will only end in disaster, I'm sure of it. You can continue killing her piece by piece, but she's old and wily and I might not always be there to make sure she does not lead you astray. Just reset her and release her from your control. I'll wait until I get to that part in the coma to make a decision on that, but I'm inclined to agree. The idea of my very own pet war hero elemental is nice, but for one, I don't much care for slavery. 2. I share your concern that she's not entirely toothless yet. And 3. Humiliating her is kinda getting old. Besides, she keeps begging me to reset her anyway, so it's only fair. You've heard now from 2 of your followers who recognize that you are having difficulties adjusting to your gender. I can confirm that it's true. With the flick of a switch, Aqua, or I could change that for you. You'll still have the same personality, you just won't be bothered by your change anymore. And if the option ever presents itself to turn back, we can change you right back to the way you were. No more unhappiness, no more misery, and you'll still be you. We'll see what the coma has to say about it before I make that choice. I wanted to avoid it, but if I can't adjust normally and there really is no way back, lobotomizing myself might be the only option. No reason to continue being unnecessarily miserable, I guess. That seems like a dangerous way of thinking, my guide asked. You were upset when she erased your unnecessary depression. She didn't tell me she was doing it. Here, she gave me the option. Plus, I no longer balk so heavily at the idea of mind control. I mean, Cuteless just seems pretty upbeat and happy. It might not be too late to just let Aqua completely wipe my mind so I effectively die, then let them build someone else so I don't have to suffer anymore. You don't get to say things like that anymore, Flo said. If Taya heard it, she might well kill all of the elementals in case you get any ideas. You're so selfish, I muttered. Do you have any messages for the outside world? Flo asked. No. If I send any of them a message, all the ones I don't send anything to will get jealous. You did give Doppel the tentacle monster treatment though, right? I did. She said she'll be practicing in a similar shape to return the favor to you when you get out. Oh. Do you have any other requests for me? I have many, many more, but I will only voice one for now. Stop thinking of Celestia as a new being. She is, but it will make things much easier if you just consider her the best parts of the old one. It will make what things much easier? I ask. We're already working together fairly well. Things are promising as they are. For one, she will be happier. Celestia knows she has large shoes to fill. Being reminded so often makes her feel uneasy. For 2, it will help her adjust to her new role much more easily. Every time the fact that she isn't the same Celestia is brought up, it makes her question if she's doing a good enough job. She's trying hard to keep everything running as it is. 3rd, it will help you get over the trauma that the old Celestia did to you. Put her out of your mind, Nav. She's gone, and Celestia as she is now will never hurt you. And last, it will help the others adjust, too. If you take the lead on accepting her, the others will follow. Do I have to give a heartfelt answer to this one, too? All of your answers should be heartfelt, my precious little Navi, she sweetly replied. Especially when given to your favorite elemental. At the end, I realized I hated Celestia. I hated her evil actions, I hated her bitchy attitude, and I hated her whitewashed history. I was trying to think of your Celestia as a new one to distance her from the darkness of the old. It isn't a disservice to her or her skills. It's to honor her as a true second chance. As you said, she is a new version entirely. Tell her to revel in it, not shy away from it. So you do have a message for someone, then? If you want to take it that way, sure. Did you tell her what I know about my pull? I did. She was happy to have it confirmed, but utterly horrified at what it means. So many things have happened centered around you. Many were likely caused by the pull. At the moment, she's agreed to keep it to herself and start looking for ways to possibly counteract it. Cool. Then is there anything else? I want you to rely on me, Nav. And until you trust me, you never will. So if you give any of my requests thought, let it be that one. I would love to help you truly get through your problems, not merely find ways to cope with them. I guess if push comes to shove, we can just increase what all gets snipped if we go for the lobotomy route. That way, my trust in you would be proven by letting you just. I already said you don't get to say things like that anymore, Flo replied. Don't make me think of a punishment for it. I don't understand why you won't just let me kill myself. No one would even have to know. Everyone expects me to be different when I get out of here, so you can just make me into whatever you want. Because I want you to be my host, not my ideal version of you. Farewell for now, Navi. I may visit again before the coma is done. She tossed me back into my guide and vanished, leaving me alone in my mind. Your elemental mistrusts us, my guide said. That's not surprising. Any more messages? No. Why is it not surprising? You questioned her motives involving Celestia. Of course that'll sow distrust. Are you prepared to move on? Yep. Let's do it. She set me back on my feet and her eyes flashed. We ended up in a sitting room in the Crystal Empire. Twilight and her friends were there, along with Cadance. If I had to guess, I'd say it was right after I told everyone the truth about my time in Equestria. Somewhat surprisingly, Fluttershy was the first to talk. Poor Nav. He was actually telling the truth, Applejack muttered. I always wondered what happened to him, Cadance sighed, shaking her head. Hearing it all laid out so plainly is unsettling. I can't believe some of us are guilty, too. Dash shouted, glaring at Pinkie. It was a mistake made long ago, Rarity said, which made Dash's glare change targets. It was an awful deed that Nav has since forgiven. I don't think he'll be so quick to forgive the princesses, Pinkie slowly said. So what are we going to do about this, girls? Twilight asked. I don't think Nav would want us doing anything at all, Applejack said. I'm pretty sure that if he wanted something done, he'd ask us. That's nonsense, Rarity said. That poor colt doesn't know how to ask his friends for anything. That's why we had to force him to tell us the truth. Is that the same reasoning you used when you raped him? Cadance sweetly asked, making Rarity flinch. I lived with Nav for a while. I learned that the one mistake you do not make is assuming that you're doing a favor by going out of your way to do something for him when he doesn't ask you to. Due to the way his crazy human brain works, he thinks you're insulting him half the time. We could throw him a festival. Pinky said. He said he hates just about every party, but seems to like those. I don't think Nav would really appreciate that, Twilight said. Even if it's so obvious that he's hurting. I just want to hold him and tell him it'll be alright. Sometimes just being there is enough, Fluttershy said with a small nod. Maybe we should just hold him close. The door opened and Shiny walked in. Nav's gone. Dash was instantly in his face, hovering in the air. What? His horn lit up and she got stuffed into a purple bubble so he could push her back. He went back to his airship for now. I think he wanted to get out of the palace before you had any scary ideas about how to comfort him. The bubble popped and Dash returned to her seat with a huff. They were cute ideas, not scary. Cadance said. They were just about to decide on a group hug. I'm relatively confident that Nav doesn't enjoy group hugs, Rarity said. He always seems to dread them. No, he secretly enjoys hugging ponies, Pinky said. Especially mares, because we're nice and squishy. I'm his favorite. How do you know that? Twilight asked. I read his diaries, They're really neat. I know one thing we could do, Applejack said. We could ban Pinky from invading his privacy. But then how would we be able to find out things like how he and Rarity got arrested for treason or that he had a threesome with Twilight and Luna? We wouldn't. Applejack said. And we shouldn't. Agreed, Twilight said with a massive blush. I've never been arrested in my life. Rarity said. We're getting off topic. Dash said. Nav's trying to hide from us again. What are we gonna do to help him get over his trauma? If he doesn't like group hugs, that's obviously a bust. He likes sex. Pinky helpfully said. Sex is what caused most of his issues, Cadance said. And besides, you'd have to fight Cumini for him. That said, Rarity could make her some fun outfits. He seems to enjoy those. Lingerie for a dragon. Rarity slowly said. That seems like an interesting challenge. Is there anything cool to do in the city? Dash asked. Maybe if he spends some time just hanging out with his awesome pals, his mind will be in a better place. I ain't sure Nav considers us his pals, Applejack said. Why else would he leave in the middle of the night without telling almost any pony? Because he doesn't like goodbyes, Pinky said. You heard him. Won't the party tomorrow cheer him up? Shiny asked. No, Nav hates parties, Cadance said. That's nonsense, Rarity replied, waving a hoof. He's just stubborn about his image. It's impossible to not like Pinky's parties, Twilight said. I don't know why he always pretends he's miserable at them. He just likes complaining, Pinky sighed. But it does hurt my feelings when he lies. I'm pretty sure he ain't lying about that, actually, Applejack said. You believe almost everything he says is a lie, Dash said. Why is this any different? I get a feeling in my gut when ponies lie to me. I get it around Nav a lot, but not when he complains about parties. Then you're obviously just misreading him, Twilight said. To be honest, even I still have problems sometimes. Maybe your lie detector doesn't work as well on other species. Are you sure he's not just different? Fluttershy quietly asked. I don't always like going to parties either. But you like some parties, right? Dash said. Nav doesn't like any. I'm starting to see why he didn't want to say anything, Shiny slowly said. What's that supposed to mean? Dash shouted, hopping off her couch to square up with the much larger stallion. Cadance's horn lit up and Dash got pushed back into her seat. We all have our own duties to attend. That includes Nav. While I admit he needs the support of his friends right now, his friends happen to have important business that needs doing. We can brainstorm ways to help him later, after your shock has had time to subside. Until then, I don't want Aniponi doing anything big without talking to me first. Why do we need permission to be good friends? Rarity asked. Because I would like to offer my advice on any solution you may have. I lived with Nav for a while and will be able to offer insight. I lived with him, too. Twiggles quickly said. And two minds are better than one, Cadance sweetly said. Consider this practice for me. Now that I have a city of my own to rule, I'll need to work on my conflict resolution skills. Giving advice about my favorite human seems like a good way to get started. Makes sense, I suppose, Twilight said. Shiny sighed in relief. What was that for? And nothing. Thankfully, the memory stopped before they could start ganging up on him. And so the position of best princess returns to Cadance, I said, crossing my arms. Why did you tell them the truth? Pain asked. These mares are worthless. I like Dash and Twiggles enough to tolerate the rest. Also, I hurt Fluttershy enough to tolerate any amount of nonsense from her. Do you regret telling them? Reason asked. No. I didn't want to, but they already knew enough that the rest wasn't too much worse. Besides, I was hoping it would help them see Celestia for what she truly was, if they somehow hadn't yet. I don't think it worked. Of course it didn't, Pain said. Those girls were way too indoctrinated. Well, at least I won Twilight over in the end. So what's the takeaway here? These girls are terrible friends, Pain said. I disagree, I said. Bad friends, maybe, but not terrible. At least they care enough to try cheering me up, even if their methods were bad. They certainly didn't seem to know you very well, Reason said. Especially if they thought you really were faking your hatred for parties. Yet, I honestly don't understand it. Is that really the takeaway? How close can they really be if they understand you so poorly? Reason asked. Even now, Twilight pushes your buttons all the time on purpose and on accident. I'm hardly innocent of that, but it does start to grate. Shouldn't you be encouraging me to get closer to them, not try to get me to cut them off? We aren't trying to do anything but show you the truth, Reason said. And the truth is that they do not know you very well. They are not very close to you. Whether that means you should cut ties with them completely, attempt to strengthen the bonds, or leave them as they are is entirely up to you. I'm a monster created by discord. Those girls are the elements of harmony. We've already seen how far I've corrupted them in my time here. If I spend any more time with them, I'm likely to make them even worse. So what does that mean for your relationship with Twilight? Pain asked. At this point, I think she's corrupting me more than I'm corrupting her. But it seems my followers think I'm destined for a crown. After watching all of these memories, a part of me is starting to like the idea of it. If I get some manner of solid authority base, the chances of anybody ever being able to fuck with me decreases dramatically. Having a crown on my head means I will be guiding the pawns. Flo is inclined to believe Twilight is being prepped for princesshood, my guide said. Maybe. But two of my friends also seem to think Twilight isn't the right option. I've had my doubts in the past. If I add being a royal to the list of requirements, that would cut the list down to just Celestia, Gilda, and Moonbeam. And if you take out anyone who might be controlled by discord, you hopefully just have Celestia and Gilda. And take out anyone not mind-controlled by a water elemental to be the perfect wife, you're down to just Gilda, my guide said. And do you really want to marry Gilda? No. She's infatuated with me because I'm exotic, I have the pull, I'm a chick, and I'm pretty good at seducing haughty princesses. I don't think she would be the best partner. I just don't really know if any of my other choices are that much better. I fell silent for a few long seconds before shaking my head. I think it might be time I start distancing myself from Twilight's friends. I really don't want to make them worse. Are you sure they might not make you better? Pain asked. Now that you know what manner of abomination you are, you can see to better yourself and cease corrupting those around you. Are you feeling all right? I slowly ask. That actually sounded optimistic. You've been letting go of old pain, my guide said. It has consequences. Don't you want your friends to help you get over me? Pain asked. Twilight often says that friendship is magic, I said. I personally think it's one of the gayest things I've ever heard, and yet, maybe distancing myself isn't the correct option. But to be honest, I don't really have much in common with any of them. I don't know. Of course you know, Reason said. They won't let you just distance yourself from them. Pinky and Dash will hunt you down no matter where you try to hide. Which is why you shouldn't distance yourself, Pain said. If they're so persistent when they're not that great of friends, imagine how close they'll be once you really have them on your side. You'll just have to let them get to know the real you so they can actually get close to you, Reason added with a nod. Instead of hiding behind your emotional walls and doing your best to push others away. Sounds like work. Being miserable and bitterly lonely is so much easier. Are you prepared to move on? My guide asked. I took a quick look around the room before walking over to the past version of Twilight. After poking her a few times to see if she was soft, I shoved my face against her squishy side. It was all kinds of warm and fuzzy. When I got tired of it, I stood back up and nodded. I'm good to go. My guide's eyes lit up and we took off. End of part 1.